Legend was so much better.
Where was he when he got before the hospital?
I said heart failure at a hospital, so.
Did he have a heart failure? Find out if the weekend before that he was working.
How about the guys that die on stage?
No.
You ever see those?
He was admitted earlier in the afternoon with chest pains.
Shit.
Damn it.
Damn, the lore was always that he died on the road. Like people say, he died in Vegas. He was working that weekend. He never stopped working. He was George Carlin. He had money in the bank.
I hope
he could have quit.
I hope I'm bombing. I hope a lady says something. I'm like, "What'd you say, you bitch?" And then just
grab his chest.
You got me. That was a good heckle. Just fucking die.
That's hilarious.
Man, I should have showed up fucked up.
No, we're fine, dude.
1 week after his last performance in Vegas at the
All right, there you go.
I'll take it as a win.
That is a win.
That's a win.
He had 1 week to sit on that and be like, "That show sucked."
He feels his heart twitching every now and then. I bet before your heart gives out, it probably gives you a few warning shots.
I bet it gives you a warning. And like any man, you're going to be like going to the fucking doctors.
Do you know when you're poor and you have a car and you're starting it and he goes,
yes.
Yes. And one day that is just going to be click, 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 click.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely everybody's heart.
But how else do you want to die? I mean, maybe it would be nice to die around your family, but wouldn't that be very traumatic for them? It's traumatic for them no matter what if you die. But you want to be in the room.
I hope I spontaneously combust. I hope Thanksgiving dinner, I'm just like, "Hey, would you pass me that?" And I just burst into flames.
I was just my grandfather was anybody in my family. And when he died, I remember there was part of me that we knew he wasn't doing well. So there was part of me that was relieved that he wasn't in pain anymore. But there was part of me that was, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there when that happens.
Yeah. I watched my grandpa. I was in the room, and he started, like, he was laying there, and he just started like, and they had to like shove a tube down his throat, and they pushed me out of the room.
Yeah.
And it was
it's
just
like they know it's over, right? They have to do whatever they can to prolong life. Isn't that fascinating, like how we feel about life? Like even if a guy's 136 years old, if he's in the hospital, but you know what I'm saying, right? Even if he's like, he's done it all. If he's in the hospital twitching, they'll get clear, clear.
Bro, give him heroin.
Yeah.
Give him something wild.
Give him something.
Give him
yourself.
I did. Ding, 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 ding. My friend Spud, shout out Spud, shout out Billy.
Shout out to Spud.
He took Molly with me for the first time, and he was like, "My mom died of cancer. I watched her get put on every drug imaginable." He's like, "Bro, if they would have just gave her fucking Molly, or like gave her like one of these drugs to just, you know what I mean?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give her something that makes her feel really good before she goes.
Oh, that night, the night we were talking about that, me and Spud, we took a couple hits of Molly, and then I ate. See, I'd always done mushrooms, but I always did like a little bit, like enough that like you'd get giggly. It felt like weed, almost.
Right.
It felt like weed without the anxiety. And then one night I must have eaten like 7 grams.
Ooh.
I mean, bro.
Ooh.
I never did that. So we're sitting it was my friend Matt's bachelor party. We're outside. We're at this fire. All of a sudden I blacked out. Like, dude, I couldn't see. I went like blind. I was sitting there. I was like, "Yo, guys, I'm blind." And they're like, "You're all right. You're all right."
You're not supposed to do 7 grams with a bunch of people around.
You were on Molly too?
I did do a little Molly.
So you started on that.
Started on Molly.
That seems like that's a little more too, right?
Listen to Jamie.
It was a lot.
It's like look, your precursor.
I haven't done drugs since.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, but it's funny the way you're describing it. You're being like cautious. Like it seems like
someone should have told you to.
That is such a crazy idea. First of all, it's a crazy idea to do Molly and mushrooms together.
Yeah. Look, it was the Molly. Molly took over. Somebody dropped.
The Molly you do mushrooms.
Ziploc bag of fucking mushrooms. Wow. I was just sitting there munching as many as I could.
Oh my god!
To the point like I was having trouble swallowing them.
Dang.
Is it? Yeah, it was. There was nothing actually.
You never die.
But I did.
Thought there was a time. I think he did some sort of an MAO inhibitor with mushrooms, And it was one of the few times, like I've listened to a lot of Terrence McKenna lectures.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Not really, there weren't lectures. It was like he gave these talks that he would do in front of like a couple hundred people who travel around the country and do these. And he gave one of them about some combination of drugs. I'm not completely sure I remember, but I think it was an MAO inhibitor and a large dose of mushrooms together. And he said that he could feel like his thought process, his ability to think was getting erased. He could like lines of code getting erased. Yeah, that his ability to process thoughts and the ability to communicate was like he could watch it get erased, and he was like genuinely concerned that he was never going to come back from it. I'm paraphrasing it. I haven't heard that in maybe 10 years.
The mushrooms thing.
I'm watching this show Vikings.
Right.
And, oh, man, it pissed me off. Episode 2, this guy puts his feet up on the table, and he's got rubber bottom soles of his shoe. I'm like, you motherfuckers. He has a heel that's clearly made in a factory, and there's like this textured plastic bottom to his shoe. I'm like, how did no one catch this? You guys have this amazing wardrobe and all these ships, and I'll take a picture of it, and I'll put it up on my Instagram later.
That's
'Cause
funny.
it was so dumb, it made me angry. But I'm watching this, and I'm like, how do we know this was how they talked? How do we know this
Right.
is what they did?
Right.
How do we? This is some weird interpretation of some historical events.
Really hard to interpret, and of course, thought fossilized. So,
No.
I start off early in the book about who were the first people who thought we're going to die.
Right.
And become aware of our own mortality in a way that, well, maybe I can conceive of being somewhere else. I don't actually die. So we know, elephants grieve, animals grieve, and cetaceans, dolphins, whales, and so on, and chimps. They feel these mothers are just depressed and almost suicidal when their infants die. But that's different from, conceiving of like, well, I know I'm going to die because I see people around me going to die, but I conceive of maybe some other place to go. So I start off with something of a paradox that if I ask you to imagine you're dead, you can't do it, because to imagine anything, you have to be alive. So it's not going to be like falling asleep and waking up the next morning because you have dreams or whatever. It's going to be more like general anesthesia, where it's 10, 9, 8, boom, boom, lights out, but you just never wake up. So, and so we talk about things like, well, there's nothing after death. But even the word "no thing" implies there's a thing, or you're going to this place, there's nothing. Well, no thing. Or nowhere, it implies that there's a where that you're not going to, but there's not even a where that you're not going to. And it's like, with Lawrence Krauss and some of these cosmologists, what was there before the Big Bang? So when you say, well, imagine no universe, no stars or planets or galaxies, no light, but even any space or time. And at some point, we don't have the words to even say what it is we're trying to talk about. There's nothing before the Big Bang. You can't even actually talk about it.
Well, they think now, though, that it's entirely possible that the Big Bang is like a cycle. And
Yes,
that
well, I think it's something like that. I think
expands and contracts infinitely forever.
Yeah, that's a preferable. Well, again, we have to come up with some way to talk about it. So
Don't we also have this weird biological idea based on our own limitations that there's a birth and a death of everything?
Right. So I actually have a chapter devoted to Deepak Chopra and the Eastern Wisdom. We're buddies now. And,
Really?
Yeah, I went to his center down in Carlsbad and spent some time there. And
You think he's?
yeah, no, he's totally a good guy. I mean,
he's been, and at times in the past, either misleading or misled.
sometimes that's right. Some of his recommendations for dietary things or whatever, perhaps. But I know for sure, because I've gotten to know him pretty well, that he totally believes the stuff he says. It sounds like woo-woo, as I used to call it.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, if you interpret it from a kind of a Buddhist, Western Buddhist position, when he says, consciousness is the ground of all being, it's the ontological primitive, these things that sound nonsensical. But if you think about it, it's sort of from a simple perspective, the entire universe is in your brain, and when you cease to exist, the universe ceases to exist for you. But in your brain, I call that the weak consciousness principle. It's just sort of true by definition. Now, he goes a little bit further and says, that consciousness is everything, and that we bring into existence material stuff by thinking about it or observing it or whatever. And here's some quantum physics experiments that are really spooky. It's like, okay, time out. Quantum physics is weird and spooky. Consciousness is weird and spooky. That doesn't mean they're connected. No, he thinks they are. So it's a debatable point, okay? But still, the experience of going and so I did the meditation thing and all the massages and the teas and the food and all that stuff, and it's it's this beachside resort in Carlsbad. You can't help but feeling better. Like, yeah, this stuff's
Where is Carlsbad?
It's down by Encinitas, north of San Diego.
Oh, okay. That's a beautiful area.
Totally beautiful. Yeah, Deepak's not done, and he's got a good thing going. And not just Deepak, there's other people. Sam Harris, Bob Wright has a new book out called Why Buddhism is True. Okay, so it works. So we're back to, does it work? What do you mean by does it work? Not just for me. I had an experience and I felt better. We got to do better than that for science. So what Deepak and Bob Wright are talking about is that the Western version of Buddhism may actually work medically. It may, lower stress hormones in your body, lower blood pressure, these kinds of things that are measurable, because that's what we want to know from a Western scientific perspective. Not just do I feel better, but 67% of the people who did this particular treatment, they got better by these measurable criteria. Okay, that seems fair enough to me. I'm open to that.
Now, this idea that there's nothing or no thing, that we can't even wrap our head around nothing, because we think of a thing, that there's no thing, but there's never a thing.
Right.
But how do we, or why don't we just say we don't know? Why don't we speculate on the possibility of consciousness being some sort of ethereal thing or something that exists outside of the Bible? We don't know. We really don't know.
That's what
right?
I say. I include, and that I don't know if there's an afterlife or not. At the very end of the book, we can come back to this later. I just say it doesn't really matter whether there's an afterlife or not, because we don't live in the afterlife. We live in this life. So this is the time you got to do whatever you got to do. I call this Alvy's error. Alvy is Alvy Singer, Woody Allen's character in Annie Hall. And remember the scene early in the movie where he has a flashback as a young boy, and he's in the psychiatrist's office with his mom, and what's the problem? He won't do his homework. You won't do your homework. Why won't you do your homework, Alvy? He says, the universe is expanding. He says, the universe is expanding. He goes, the universe is everything there. And if it's expanding, one day it's all going to blow apart. So nothing really matters. I'm not going to do my homework. And his mother yells at him, what does the universe got to do with this? We live in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is not expanding. So that's my sort of take-home message there. We don't live in the afterlife, right, or before the universe or after the... None of that matters. I mean, it's interesting to talk about, but we live in this life.
Yeah.
So this is what really counts.
There's many things to contemplate, but ultimately, you really, for practicality's sake, you really should be paying attention to life.
I mean, this is what I tell Deepak all the time when he says, well, Michael, this table is actually made of atoms that are mostly empty space, and the quantum physicists, blah, blah.
According to Sean Carroll, that's not correct.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, he explained that. Yeah, this whole idea of empty space. He's like, that's just a poor way of describing it.
Okay.
And I would defer to him and let him describe it.
All right.
He also described the superpositions, like particles, subatomic particles being in superposition, where they're in a state of moving and not moving at the same time.
Okay.
He explained that in a way that completely fucked my head up, too. I'm like, well, I thought I had it figured out, sort of. I didn't think I had it figured out, but I thought I had a definition that at least was like, okay, well, it's this, even though I don't understand it. And he's like, no, it's not even that.
Okay.
So
yes,
refer to, please, if you're interested, go to the Sean Carroll podcast.
Well, as I understand it anyway, that it doesn't really matter because the atoms are jiggling in a way that this is solid. You can tell it's solid, and this is the level we live at. Solid.
If somebody just on your head, you're in trouble.
Right, yeah. So again, we don't live in a quantum world, a macro world where this kind of stuff does matter. Okay, so. So for Deepak, the whole Western way of thinking scientifically, there's a beginning and an end. Time is a linear thing that we can measure, and there's birth and death. All that is the wrong way to think about it. The Buddhist way is that it's just all consciousness, and when you die, you return to the conscious state you were before you were born. So the physical body is just an instantiation of this conscious thing, whatever this is. And okay, I don't know. I'd be surprised, but I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'll tell you that if it turns out, I close my eyes for the last time and I wake up and, there's Deepak and, whoever, my friends, Carl Sagan and Stephen Jay Gould and all the greats, Asimov are there. Everybody's there. Hitch is there. It's like, oh boy, okay, this isn't hell. If that's true, I'm not against any of this. Just like I'm not against Ray Kurzweil and these guys figuring out that we can live 200 years or 300 years. Great, if you can do it, but let's just, so when they say to me, Shermer, don't you want to live to be 500? It's like, just get me to 80 without prostate cancer. Give me to 90 without Alzheimer's, 100. Yeah. Get me to 100 so I'm not on a morphine drip in a bed. Just quality of life incrementally, year by year. And if it turns out you solve these problems and we lived 150, 200, and then we have a bunch of other problems we don't even know about yet, okay.
Well, I think some beauty in temporary things that we, for whatever reason, we're avoiding that concept. We're terrified of things ending. But there's beauty in things being temporary.
Right.
Like, you don't want to go to see a movie that's 100 hours long.
That's right.
A movie's a great movie when it's 90 minutes. You're in, you're out. Maybe 2 hours. If it's 3 hours, if it's Blade Runner or something crazy.
Christopher Hitchens in my book, because I love his analogy. First of all, you're at the party and death taps you on the shoulder, says you have to leave. And worse, the party's going to go on without you, and they're going to all have fun. It's like, oh no. But he said, if the Christian version of heaven and hell is real, you're tapped on the shoulder at the party until you can never leave the party. It's like, oh, that's even worse. I don't want to do anything forever.
Right. And imagine the classical version of what heaven is. Like a guy with a harp and there's a bunch of babies with wings. Like, what?
Or even that that's why Hitch called it celestial North Korea. You have a dictator that knows all of your thoughts.
Yeah.
Everything you're going to do. It's like, wait a minute. That
and is the way things operate is not something that's far from optimal. It's not something that sucks, but it is very good, very optimal, and hard to beat in the sense that, like, for example, mortality, right? Is death important for creation? Is death important for us human beings? For life, for us as a society? Is it important for us to die? Like, if you could live forever, would you live forever?
Well, I think you miss out on the possibility that there is something. Well, I had this conversation with C.T. Fletcher yesterday because, he survived a heart transplant a year and 2 days ago. I think it's... What do you think?
I think mortality is essential for everything. So I think we need the end to be there.
Right. But do you think we need the end to be there for the overall health of the human race or all the organisms on Earth? Or do you think we need it to be there because there's something else? Do you think there's something else that happens to you when your body stops existing? Do you think your consciousness transcends this dimension?
I think I'm not smart enough to even think about that.
That's a great answer.
So
I think anybody on Earth has that exact same answer if they're being honest.
So you talked about atheism and so on. I used to think atheism means what I just said.
Right.
But it's more, we know so little. So the only thing I know is that the finiteness of life is the Broadway Jiu-Jitsu school that I train at has this poster at the opening, which is a Hunter S. Thompson quote, which is
about skidding into death sideways.
No,
that's the
one. No, for all moments of beauty, many souls must be trampled. Something like that.
That's a fucking great quote. God, I love that guy.
Yeah, so basically, for beauty, you have to have suffering.
I do not disagree. I do not disagree with any of the things you said. And I think there's always a possibility that human beings are the most advanced life form that's ever existed in the cosmos. There's always that. That has to be an option if we are here, right? If we can't see any others out there, and even though, there's the Fermi paradox and there's all this contemplation that if they do exist, like maybe they can't physically get to us, or maybe they're on a similar timeline to us, and it's also possible, as crazy as it might sound, that this is as good as it's ever gotten anywhere in the world, or anywhere in the universe, rather. That human beings right now in 2019 are as good as the whole universe has ever produced. We're just some freak luck accident, and everybody else is throwing shit at each other, right? There's 15-armed caterpillar people that live on some other fucking planet, and they just toss their own shit at each other, and they never get any work done. But we might be that. But even if that's true, even if this beauty that we perceive, even if that this beauty requires evil to battle and requires seemingly insurmountable obstacles you have to overcome, and that through this you achieve great beauty, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Absolutely. For sure. Objectively, the universe doesn't give a fuck if Rocky beats Apollo Creed in the second movie. It doesn't give a fuck. It's nonsense. Everything's nonsense. When you look at the giant ass picture of it, what beauty is it if the sun's going to burn out in 5 billion years? What beauty is it if there could be a hypernova next door that just cooks us? Oh,
so I mean, that's like the book *Sapiens*.
Yeah,
that basically one of the things we've created here is we've imagined ideas that we all share, ideas of beauty, ideas of truth, ideas of fairness. Yeah. We've all created together, and it doesn't exist outside of us as a society. And
no, it only exists to us. Yeah. But to us, it does exist, and this is where I think the beauty of being a person truly lies. It lies in us, our appreciation of us. We appreciate people in a profound way. Like we were talking about Hendrix. I don't know how many hours of Hendrix I've ever listened to, or Richard Pryor. How many hours of Richard Pryor I watched, and how much that affected me as a kid. Watching Live in the Sunset Strip, that's what got me into doing stand-up comedy. We affect each other. C.T. Fletcher, who was on the podcast yesterday, who's this incredibly inspirational guy. You watch his videos, you want to lift the fucking world and throw it into space. You know, I mean, he's so powerful. We appreciate each other. We appreciate people. So all those things you're saying are real, like for us. They're real for us. My concern is not that. My concern is that we are outdated. My concern is not that there's not beauty in what we are. I am a big appreciator of this life. I appreciate human beings in this life, and human beings, their contributions. And as I get older, like particularly like over the last few years, I started doing a lot of international travel. I fucking appreciate the shit of all these people that are living in this different way with weird language and shit, and weird smelling foods. And I like to think, like, what would it be like if I grew up here? Like, these are just people, but they're in this weird sort of mode. Yeah. You know, I think we're insanely lucky that we have this enthusiasm for each other, that we have this like for your work, man. I have this deep enthusiasm for what you do. I'm fascinated by it. I love being able to talk to you and pick your mind about, like, you're out there coding these fucking vehicles that are driving themselves.
Artificial life on wheels.
Any other animal appreciates each other the way people do. I mean, I might be wrong.
The way people do, right?
Yeah. I might be wrong about dolphins and whales. I mean, maybe they love each other just as much as we do, just in a different way.
But where does AI fit into that? So you're worried.
I'm worried that we are Australopithecus, and AI is going to come along and make us look stupid. The only reason why Australopithecus would be cool today is if we found a gang of them on an island somewhere. We were like, holy shit, they survived. They never evolved. They're on this island just cracking coconuts and just eating fish, whatever they can catch. That would be amazing. But every undocumented or undiscovered, uncontacted tribe, they're all Homo sapiens, all of them. So it's like, you know, during these overwhelming periods of anxiety and fear and terror and injury, and when your body is thinking, like, hey, man, this might be it. You know, and I think that's probably what a lot of these near-death experiences are, is that people are experiencing what you would call an endogenous psychedelic experience. That your brain is releasing these potent chemicals that it absolutely has inside of it. Your brain has a ton of different, you know, things like dimethyltryptamine and different psychedelic chemicals it's capable of producing, as well as like melatonin, dopamine, serotonin, adrenaline, cortisol. There's a fucking storm of shit going on in your brain.
And in a moment like
yeah,
near death,
in a moment
it
like
just
death, like oh,
jacks it all
it
out into
probably
your system.
pumps it through your fucking neurons, and everything's firing, and you're seeing things that aren't there, and you're talking to dead relatives, and you're imagining the pearly gates, and your imagination is on 10, and you're just seeing everything. That's the reductionist perspective. The hopeful, optimistic, spiritual woo-woo perspective is this is a chemical gateway, and you're seeing through the door of the other side. And then when they decide it's not your time yet, you're sucked back to where you lie, and then you're allowed to resume this life because you have more work to do. And that's the perspective that a lot of people feel when they come out of those experiences, right? They feel like I have more work to do. I can't stop now.
My mom, years ago, God, it was like 10 years ago, more than that even, maybe 15 years ago at this point, had a heart attack, or a heart episode, rather. My dad died of a heart. But my mom was on the table, and they were putting a stent into her heart, into her artery. And she was sitting there chit-chatting while they were doing the surgery. I guess she was on a local more so than anything else. And she was joking around with the doctor. She's like, "Here, I gotta hurry up, doc, because I got to pick up my mom for the," and then went out. And so she died for a minute and a half, clinically fucking dead. They had to fucking try to restart the heart. So I was like, what happened? What was it? And she said, you know, she didn't describe, like, I saw the bright lights and I saw people and blah, blah, blah. She said I was floating. And I was like, floating up? She goes, no, floating on my back. It's like, okay, well, you were on your back in the hospital. Do you think that's what it was? She's like, I don't know, but this is what I remember. Every iota of responsibility I ever felt in my life was gone. She's like, I felt free. Like I felt instantly lighter. And just as I was heading in a direction, that's when like they pulled back. So she'd been dead for like a minute and a half, her heart had stopped. So I was like, all right, you've been in this best of all possible worlds for, you know, fucking 60 plus years. Now you've seen a glimpse of the other side, which is better. And my mom said, the other side. And I said, what? You were there for like a minute and change. Why? And she said, I was completely fucking free. Like, that was it. I didn't know this one. I don't have to care for this one. I don't have to make sure this is taken care of. I don't have to feed the cat. She was like, it was bliss. She's like, and if that's what happens, then I look forward to that again. So when I was having my shit 3 months ago, and the doctor was like, you got a 20% chance of living, I was sitting there going through all fucking shit in my head about like, all right, well, this is it. You've spent your life with your head up your ass, you know, fucking trying to figure out who you are. Go ahead, look at your head and heart. This is it. This is the big moment. Like, what are your thoughts? What's going through? And I'm such a chicken shit. I assume that I'd be like the guy who was like, I'll fucking suck your dick to stay life. Because I know this life and I don't know what happens afterwards and stuff. So I thought I'd be begging for help from God or something like that. But I was like, I made dogma. I'm sure Jesus would be like, go to hell. Fuck you. Nah. Buddy Christ my ass. So instead of doing the religious thing, I started thinking about just the journey itself. I was like, well, if the journey's ending, what are your thoughts? Just like when they held up the phone, they were like, do you want to talk to your wife? And I was like, no, of course I did. But I didn't want to because I was like, I know in my heart of hearts, if I speak to my wife right now, I'm going to be in that 20%. I'm going to die. I'm going to be in the 80%. I'm going to fucking drop dead because that's
Intensity of it?
Even like, oh my God, it's going to kill me. It just... The way they were so like, your wife is on the phone. Do you want to speak to her right now? Was very leading. And, you know, they're professionals and these cats deal with death every day. And this was my first experience with it. So what I got out of it was they felt.
Yeah.
And I was in this state of like, I didn't even realize I was having a heart attack. And so I remember looking at the phone and being like, if I answer it, if I talk to Jennifer, that's going to be it. I'm not going to leave this room. So I was like, play the odds. If I don't talk to Jennifer, maybe there's some part of me that's like, look, I like talking to Jennifer. We've been together fucking 20 years. I better enjoy talking to Jennifer. Maybe if I put this phone call off, you know, they don't get to talk to Jennifer when it's all done. So I said to the dude, I was like, you know what? Tell her I'll call her back. The guy goes, seriously? And I was like, yeah. And I saw him talking and got off the phone. I was like, what'd she say? And he goes, she was fucking pissed, dude. And I was like, well, I'm dealing with my own shit right now. So I'm laying there on the table, And I was like going through my life, and I was more grateful than anything else. I wasn't scared anymore. That was the thing. That was the thing that I love to communicate. I spent my whole life terrified of fucking dying. And when I was as closest to it as I ever knew I was, and for all I know, I was closer someplace, but like I was cognizant and told by a professional, this is fucking risky. I was just kind of grateful more than anything else. I was like, what a fucking journey. Like, yeah, and I'm 47 and it seems short, but fucking like, you gotta admit you did more than fucking most people get to do. And maybe that's why it happened at an early age, because you weren't going to get the rest of this time and shit like that. But like, I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, fucking why, this is unfair. I remembered like, there's a issue of Sandman, which I absolutely love, Neil Gaiman's comic book series back in the day. And in like after the first story arc, we meet his sister. The main character is Dream, Morpheus, the character of Dream. He's part of the Endless, and he's got other siblings, Delirium, Desire. One of his siblings is Death. And they represent Death in the comic book. You know, you're used to seeing the fucking Scythe and the fucking Grim Reaper and shit. There's a little emo girl, goth girl, wearing an ankh around her neck and shit like that. It was written in the 90s. And they don't tell you right away that she's Death. As you're reading the issue, you're like, oh, shit. I think she's meant to be Death. She's ferrying souls over to the other side. So you see a baby pass, and she's holding the baby, and then there's the refrain is like, I hear the sound of her wings, and that's taking this soul over to the next place as she's sitting around talking to her brother. And so she eventually gets into a room with this older guy who's like, who are you? And you know, she's like, I'm here for you. You know who I am. And he's like, that's it? He's like, oh my God, I did all these things. I worked my fingers to the bone, and what did I get? This is it. What did I get? And she says, like a line that when I read it when I was 18, it was powerful. But when I was laying on the fucking table, it was constantly going through my head and made it all easier. Made me kind of at peace with the idea of dying. There's this line she says to the guy. She goes, you got what everybody gets. You got a lifetime. And as I was laying there, I was like, oh my God, I got a lifetime. Like that's what it was. Nothing more, nothing fucking less. And I did some shit in it, and now it's going to stop, and people are going to go on without you, and that's not terrible. Like, I thought I'd be fucking desperate to live, and instead I had that weird, like, I understood what my mother said for the first time. Because I was laying there, I was like, oh my God, like I made it to the end. Like, this is it. This is the finish line. And it had been something that I was terrified of ever getting to. But then when really kind of for that, I was like, oh, like I'm done. Like I'm not scared that I'm done. I'm actually kind of relieved that I'm done. And like, you know, fucking like I didn't get killed and I wasn't home invaded. A shark didn't eat me. All the things that like I'd been terrified of my entire life, like I don't have to think about anymore. I made it to the end and it's kind of okay. So it's weird. My whole life I thought like I'd be scared to death, and most people, we all are. We're all terrified of fucking dying because we don't know. But that's the closest I ever came, and I wasn't scared. Like suddenly the fear just went away and it seemed logical. Like of course it's over. Like things end. And I didn't want to die. Didn't have a death wish, but I was like, if it's done, it's done. And count your blessings and be happy and don't be a bitch. Like if the fucking ferryman shows up tonight, don't fucking hold out. Don't be the last asshole at the party going, no. Like just fucking pay the ferryman, get on a boat and go. We'll see what's next and stuff. And then ultimately Leidenheim did a good job and I fucking wound up living and stuff. So I know this much. I got to read a bunch of it like after I nearly died, and it was all nice. People wrote very nice things about me and shit. And I expected, you know, it's the creature of the internet that some people would be like, I wish he had fucking died, fuck him to death and shit. I wish he'd stay silent. But it was like very nice things. People were kind of positive and stuff. So I was like, fuck, man, like, you know, I didn't want to die, but like if I had, like that would have been okay. Now I'm back at it. You know what I'm saying? Like now, until it ends, I've got to, you know, and it's kind of easy. As long as I don't wake up with a fucking dead girl or a live boy, I don't think like they'll fucking rake me over the coals when I die in the future and shit like that. But it felt weird to be so close to the completion and having something that normally terrifies you suddenly be like, oh, okay. Like, and I don't, if you walked up and put a gun in my face, I'm sure I'd feel threatened, but like I kind of lost my fear of death. I'm not like death defying. I won't go out and do anything differently. But that dark cloud that kind of kills any good time the moment you start thinking about like one day, like it's gone, and all of a sudden, I'm going to die one day, and it's going to be awesome. But not for the reasons that you think I'm saying it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome because I finish. Like, it's nice things. We know how good it feels in life to complete something, and that's the biggest fucking thing in life you'll ever complete is your journey. So I didn't walk away going like, I got to do more. Like, I got to fucking live life to the fullest. I just got to keep doing what I've been doing, like living life the way I enjoy it, trying to do. Sometimes they work, sometimes they fail and shit. Sometimes people are on your side. Sometimes people are like, you fucking blow. And just do that good time. Have good conversations in the process, meet interesting people, hear new points of view and shit like that. And keep at it. But it's nothing to be afraid of. Like, awesome. I don't want to get eaten by a cat, don't get me wrong. Like, and I guarantee you, I would not be philosophical as a fucking big cat was crushing my, I'd be like, Jesus, no! I'd find prayer quick. But death is no longer something, I'm not looking for it, and I certainly won't put myself in harm's way, but it doesn't preoccupy me anymore. I've been there, and it's not the thing that I was led to believe it was. Like, it's not the ultimate fear come true. It's not the Grim Reaper. The sense, at least in my case, and again, I didn't have a painful heart attack. I'm sure people have heart attacks where they feel like their fucking body's being ripped and cleaved in twain. But it wasn't that. It wasn't scary. It was okay.
Well, listen, man, I'm glad you lived because I love you and you're my favorite
I
people
love you
to
too.
talk
I
to.
couldn't
And we don't
wait.
very often, but when we do, I always love it.
After the heart attack, I couldn't wait to. We started texting and be like, "Bro, you gotta come in." I was like, "Definitely."
I didn't want to ask quick.
Like, what's the protocol on that sort of shit?
Like, it's so morbid. Listen, man, you might not make it. Do you think you can get in here?
Is Tuesday good? But no, I stuff as we all are happy to be above ground. It's better than below.
I'm happy to hear your perspective too.
I wanted to pass that on because you're a seeker as well. And
I think a lot to a lot of people that are listening too, because that's what everyone's scared of, right?
Oh, it blows, dude. That's what we think. We're trained to think that way. Every fucking movie, every book you read, every song about like how it'll suck when it's over, and
that fear can keep you from enjoying it.
Cool things and stuff like that. And I don't mean like putting yourself in harm's way. Like, let's shoot a movie with real lions. Like, that's been done. Don't try it. You can watch the fucking video, but. The things where you're like, I'd really like to try it, like, but it fucking won't work, or, oh, there's maybe time later. It's the one thing I did walk away from it, like, time, you're fucking lucky for every goddamn second.
Every goddamn second.
So use it wisely.
And I think if you can just think that way, like, today's a borrowed day. Mm-hmm. You'll have, sometimes you have to trick yourself into, like, finding more enthusiasm. You have to trick yourself to be pumped up about stuff, but if you can really do that and exercise those patterns in your brain and get them normal, there's people that have tricked themselves into enjoying all sorts of things that they know are good for them. They just fire up those fucking chemicals, and today we're going to just go out there and attack this day because this is a gift. This isn't supposed to be here. We got one.
I think that all the time now. That's like an underlying that goes under almost every thought I have. And it doesn't happen constantly, but it literally happens about 10 times a week. You'll be doing something, you'll be heading somewhere, you'll be eating something, fucking whatever the fuck, fucking having a conversation, and then you'll be like, this isn't supposed to be happening right now. Technically, based on the odds, I was supposed to die back on that fucking table. So suddenly you're like, I'm playing on house money.
House money.
You know what I'm saying? Live a house money life, kids.
Live a house money life, kids. That should be a fucking t-shirt. He was in a maximum security penitentiary. It's like they're never getting out of there. Every day you're just dealing with horrible people in terrible circumstances, and they know that you get to leave. They know you get to leave. But you're living with them most of the day. He goes, yeah, I'm not a prisoner. He goes, but my environment is surrounded by these people. He's like, that affects you. It's like, I never thought about it that way. I always thought the guards have it okay. It's just a job. Whereas the inmates, well, those poor bastards are stuck in there. Well, you're in there with them for 8 hours a day. Most of the time, you're not controlling them. Most of the time, you're just coexisting. So
yeah,
like, oh my
who's
God.
behind bars? Which way is behind, right?
Right.
They're in a cell with a hallway filled with bars, people, one person on the other side of each bar. So are they.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Yeah. They're wearing body armor and fucking they have clubs, and they're always terrified that a riot's going to break out.
You saw Whitey got killed?
He did?
Yeah.
When?
Yesterday in prison.
They transferred him in like first day.
First day.
That story,
A guy that hates rats killed him. An Italian guy or like a gangster guy.
Really?
Yep. The guy is obsessed with hating rats and hating people that beat women. And I guess Whitey killed this guy the first he got.
Whitey Bulger met a violent end after a lifetime of brutality.
They tried to pull his eyes out of his skull.
Whoa.
I don't know if they were successful or not. The thing I read didn't make
Hold
it
on,
clear.
make that larger so I could read that.
It doesn't really say much
What does it say?
about-
In a 3-foot grave near a river not far from Boston, Pat McGonagall's body lay decaying, undisturbed, until his remains were found 20 years later. Part of his pelvic bone, a fractured skull, and a decomposed brain matter. A ring.
It's all
okay.
about
This
the
is
past.
all the different things that he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he was a horrible fucking killer.
West Virginia, day after he transferred.
You know, I used to train a guy that was one of his fucking mob henchmen. Guy said to me once, he goes, if you were going to kill somebody, how would you kill him? I was like, with my bare hands? He goes, yeah. I go, I probably hit him in the neck. He's like, yeah. Wow. I was like, okay.
That was the end. See, it's not scary until you find out that's the end of the conversation.
I was 19 at the time, and I was teaching Taekwondo. Wow. And I was teaching this guy who, he was friends with a friend of mine who absolutely worked for Whitey Bulger, who wound up going to jail. And they told me that this guy used to whack people. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I was teaching him Taekwondo. He was very serious. Like, he was very intense. I was very aware that there was something different about him. Like, I was very aware, like, he wasn't just a guy that was learning for exercise or self-defense, want to take little classes, learn a little martial arts. He was going to use it. Like, he was a guy that was, in case he needed to use it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a mindset of someone who just wants to get better at a martial art, and there's a mindset of someone who's thinking about, okay, it's going to come down, I'm going to fucking get him right there. Okay, and I'm going to get him right there. That guy was, like, when he would practice, there was a certain amount of focus and intensity that he had that was palpable.
Yeah. Mobsters need to get better at that type of stuff. You ever remember De Niro's kicks in Goodfellas? Those just sloppy, the straight and just you mutt.
What's this? Whitey
The
Bulger's favorite.
sect that did it.
Yeah.
Unrecognizable.
Here's
That's the guy who did it.
quote of bam right there.
Mr. Eyes appeared to have been dislodged from his head, although it was unclear whether his attackers gouged him out or they were knocked out because he was beaten so severely in the attack. This information was relayed by a senior law enforcement official who oversees organized crime cases.
Oh, that's what it was. It was a padlock stuffed inside a sock.
Oh, that's what they beat him with?
Yep. And they also pulled his eyes out of his head.
At least in part with a padlock that was stuffed inside of a sock. At least 2 inmates were quickly sent to solitary confinement after Mr. Bulger was found, according to 3 employees of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Whitey Bulger.
Do you know he won the lottery twice?
Really?
Yep.
Damn.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scam. I mean, that was how he would show his income. So someone else would win the lottery, and they would come to him, and he would like give them the money, and they would give him the lottery ticket, and he'd be like, "Look, I won the lottery.
Wow.
That's how I'm rich."
Oh.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dark. Like, they probably would find the person who won the lottery. You know, they chased Dana White out of town. Do you know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, they wanted money. They wanted payment from Dana White. And Dana White got beaten up by them so severely that he had, like, tinnitus in his ears.
Fuck.
Yeah, he had a jet out of town. He moved to Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they wanted a cut of the UFC.
No, it wasn't the UFC. There was no UFC back then. He was like a boxing trainer.
Oh.
I forget what he was doing, whether he's running a gym, but he had to leave town because of the mob. That's why he left Boston. Yeah, it was real, man. I mean, this was all when I was a kid. I mean, I got seriously into Taekwondo in 1982. That's when it became like 81, 82. That's when it really became like my whole life. And that's right around the time where all that shit was going on. And then when in 1988, I became friends with a comedian who was, his brother went to jail for being a part of Whitey Bulger's mob. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was like everybody knew somebody who was in some way connected to the mob. In some way, you know? I just one dude. You want to hear a crazy story? Whew. There's one guy. He's dead now. I could talk about him. His name is Richie, and he went to jail while I knew him. He was arrested for a murder that I don't think they ever got him on, but this person who was killed wasn't just killed. They broke every bone in his body with a hammer and kept injecting him with cocaine to keep him awake.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he would black out from the pain, and they would inject him with cocaine to wake him back up again. And then they would break another bone. They were breaking all of his bones with a hammer. They cut his hands off, cut his head off. They cut everything off. And then when they found, you know, this broken heap of a body, he was somehow connected to this guy that I knew who sold coke. And this guy had gone to jail. And I knew him before he went to jail. He was another guy from Taekwondo. I knew him before he went to jail. He was one person. He was a young guy. I think, when he went to jail, I was 16, and I think he was 20. And then when he got out of jail, I was 20, and he was 24. And he had scars all over his body where he tried to, sand off his tattoos. He had tattoos all over his arms. And I don't know what the tattoos were, whether they were racist or whether he just didn't want them anymore. But he had like either acid burns or scars, like whatever, however the fuck he tried to get the tattoos off, all over his arms. Like his arms are covered in scars. And he wasn't good. He wasn't like a talented martial artist, but he was insanely tough. Like insanely aggressive and insanely tough. And when you sparred him, you were fighting for your life. For your life. He would come at me and try to fucking kill me. I mean, fucking kill you. Throwing looping punches with every fucking ounce of his being. And I'm moving around and I'm like, oh, we're fighting to the death here. We're fighting. This is not sparring. We only sparred a couple of times before this, but one time he had me cornered. He trapped me in a corner and hit me with a fucking bomb on the top of my head. Just boom, like as hard as he could punch. He was a strong guy. He was quite a bit bigger than me too.
Irish guy?
I think he was Italian. And I kicked him in the head so hard it broke his cheek. Like his cheek shifted over.
Oh.
Like his face, I wheel kicked him. So I hit him with my heel in his face, and he dropped down. He collapsed, went down to his went down like face first, got up on his all fours, got back up again, wanted to keep going.
Oh.
And I go, Richie, you got to look in the mirror. I go, come look in the mirror. And he's like, oh, fuck. I go, yeah, you can't spar anymore, dude. He wanted to kill me. He wanted to keep going. After I basically kicked his face in half.
Jesus.
I hit him so hard. It wasn't a sparring session. It was an I'm trying to kill you, you're trying to kill me session. And I remember setting him up, boom! And I hit him with that thing, and he face planted. Most people would have just went out. But he was so angry and so mean. He was trying to get up.
It's fucking scary.
But I was the last time I sparred with him. I'm like, we're not sparring anymore, dude. I'm not fighting to the death with some guy who I'm kind of friendly with.
Right.
I was friendly with him other than that. Like, you would never guess. I remember one time we went out. It was me and him and these two girls, and they were, like, real weird, right? And, this one girl was like, Richie, when are we going to get that stuff? I go, what stuff are you going to get? And he's like, and she's like, he's going to get us some Coke. I go, you don't want any Coke. She goes, fuck you. I was trying to tell her she doesn't want Coke. She's like, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm hanging out with this guy, stupid.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was one of the rare times I hung out with him outside of the gym. He told me a story about how he had to fight off these guys with a broomstick in jail, and how he's beating these guys to death with a broomstick. There's a horrible story about him being forced to mop up something in a bathroom, and these guys cornered him, and he's just fucking attacking them with this broomstick, and about how he got extra time for that. I forget what he went to jail for. I assume it was probably drug-related. I don't remember what it was, but I remember just being so nervous about being connected to people like that, like knowing people like that from the gym. Because there was people like that they always wanted to learn how to fight. So because you knew, you're teaching martial arts, you're training, there's always those guys would always come in. And whenever it was time to spar, scary times. There was no pulling back. There was no, like, if you were sparring with some friends, like I was sparring with, like, my friend Leroy Rodriguez, a good friend of mine who was so fast as lightning, this Puerto Rican guy, was a bad motherfucker. But he would not hurt me. When we would spar, we would go hard, but he would hold back from hurting you. Like you could trust certain people. While you were sparring, you knew there was just sparring. There was other people. It was to the death. Terrible.
Crazy.
Not only that, we did it over a fucking thin office carpet on top of concrete. It was just office carpet on top of concrete. So when people would fall, their head would bounce off the concrete.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Good Lord.
That's the 80s, bro. Shit was
no good. Man.
terrible. So terrible back then, man. I got reached out to about you was that you had gotten through a near-death experience. And I really didn't want to read into it at all. I just wanted to ask you about it.
Sure.
So something happened. You had an aneurysm that burst inside internally. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, the medical description is I had an undiagnosed aneurysm, which is a ballooning of an artery at a spot. Arteries can dilate to get more blood flow, but an aneurysm is like one specific spot that for one reason or another is weak, and it starts to give way, and it'll bubble outwards. And as that bubble grows bigger, and this takes decades, it's a very slow process, right? Basically, I have a ligament in the wrong place, and that set in motion sort of vascular problem that resulted in an aneurysm, and they don't hurt. There's no way to diagnose them. I mean, unless you scan something. And I've always been super healthy, and so throughout my life, I never had any reason for an abdominal scan. Right? I'm a fit, healthy man, a fit, healthy person, and so I just never needed that look inside me. So no one saw the aneurysm growing, right? And so at some point, the artery wall gets stretched so far that it will rupture. It'll just burst. And now you have an arterial bleed. So you know what that, if someone shoots you in the femoral or stabs you in the abdomen and you have an arterial bleed, your life is measured in minutes or whatever, or hours. And if someone does you the favor of seeing you in the abdomen and severing your pancreatic artery, which is the artery that ruptured on me, it's a little artery, this thickness of a number 2 pencil. It's not a big deal, but it's arterial blood, right? I mean, don't stop that shit, you die, right? And
right.
So if someone just like stabbed you in the abdomen, you rush to the hospital, the doc is no problem. The doc, if you're still alive, they'll transfuse you. The doctors know exactly where to sort of put their finger to plug the leak. It's no problem. The problem with an internal hemorrhage, an abdominal hemorrhage, is the doctors have no idea where it is. Abdomen is basically a big bowl of spaghetti, right? Oof. I mean, right? Filling up with blood.
They have to find where it's leaking.
Because the blood, if you're stabbed, the blood's going out of your body onto the kitchen floor. With an internal hemorrhage, it all stays in your abdomen. So it happened. It was during COVID, and we were in a remote area, an old house that we own at the end of a dead-end dirt road in Massachusetts. And it's so remote that there's no cell phone service. The phone lines are old and they short out when it rains. And my wife and I had a little bit of babysitting. We had, at the time, a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. A little bit of babysitting from the teenage girls that lived down the road that we knew the family. And so they came over to give us a few hours. And my wife and I went out to this cabin that's even deeper in the woods. And paradise, basically, right? And so we're out there. And in mid-sentence, I felt this sort of pain in my abdomen, like, ooh, what was that, right? Like, not kidney stone pain, but worse than indigestion, right? So I sort of twisted and turned to see if I could work it out, and then nothing helped. And then I finally stood up. So I said, maybe I can walk it out. And as soon as I stood up, the floor just reeled away from me, and I almost fell over. What was happening is my blood pressure was just like tanking because I was losing all my blood into my abdomen, and my body hadn't compensated yet. So I was just like my head was reeling, right? So I sat back down, and I said, was something I thought I'd ever have reason to say to my wife. I said, something's wrong. I'm going to need help, right? I don't want to ever have to say those words, right? And you're fit, I'm fit. It never crossed my mind that I would ever have to say that unless someone shoots me or something, right? Like, but not in my life. I stopped war reporting. I gave all that gambling with your life. I gave it all up. I had a family. We're in this beautiful spot. Like, are you kidding? It can come after you here too, right? Who knew, right? So, she dragged me through the woods. I had my arm around her shoulder. I'm sort of like a stumbling drunk, right? And she started dragging me through the woods, and she gets me to the car and puts me in the passenger seat of the car. And we're a 1 hour transport to the hospital, right? And I'm bleeding. I'm losing a pint of blood every 10 or 15 minutes. My wife didn't know this, and thank God I didn't either, but I was literally a human hourglass, right? And she put me in the passenger seat of the car, and I'm lying there. Now I'm starting to go blind, right? Which is one of the things that happens when you lose too much blood is you go blind. She ran into the house. The sort of electric white just took over the world, and that's all I could see. Electric white. If you bleed out, that's the last thing you'll see. And then darkness, which is what I finally got to, was the darkness. But so she ran into the house, told the teenage girls. One of them ran out. The phone line didn't work, but one of them was able to get 1 bar of signal, like in one spot on the driveway, like 1 bar, and she called the ambulance. And the ambulance guys came, and you go into something called compensatory shock if you're bleeding out. And the body senses, in its miraculous way, it senses that, there's a 5-alarm fire going on here, and we got to tighten our game, right? So it literally shuts down vascular blood flow to parts of the body you don't need, like your legs and your arms, your skin, and it sort of hoards the blood in your chest, abdomen, your chest, and your brain, around your heart, right? Those things go, you're dead. So it collects the blood around there and keeps it there through muscular tension, right? And you don't know you're doing this. But what happens, blood pressure goes back up, and suddenly you're sort of back in the world. And I was no longer going in and out of consciousness. I could send. The ambulance guys get there, and they're like, how you doing? I'm like, well, belly pain, but I don't want to be a complainer here. I'm feeling a little better, blah, blah, blah. My wife, and this is why there's a famous statistic, married men longer. My wife is like, you know what? Because they were going to leave me. They were like, oh, it's a hot day. Drink some water. You probably just dehydrated.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. My wife is like, no, he's going to the hospital. I watched him. He was in and out of consciousness. He couldn't stand up. He was going blind. Like, what's it take? Yeah. Guys, what's it take to get a guy to the emergency room? So anyway, my body stayed in compensatory shock for that hour that it took. And but I was losing blood. And then I got to the hospital, and my body couldn't hold compensatory shock anymore. And I went straight into end-stage hemorrhagic shock, which is you're dead in 10 or 15 minutes. Right. And I went off a fucking cliff right as we got to the hospital. And they estimate my blood pressure was 60/40, which is like rock bottom. They estimate I lost like 2/3 of my blood. If you lose more than 2/3, even if they transfuse you and top you off with, complement of blood, they pump it into you. If you lose that much blood, there's complications that happen with coagulants and all things like that will kill you. People can die of blood loss with a full complement of blood that they've gotten from transfusions. Just this chemical process gets initiated and they can't reverse it, right? And that starts to happen when you've lost 2/3 of your blood, which is where I was at, right? 10 minutes later, I'd have been dead. And so pushed me into the trauma bay, and the doctors knew immediately what was going on. And one doctor had this sort of large gauge needle, and he started, and he asked my permission. I had no idea I was dying, and he asked my permission to stick it through my neck into my jugular, which didn't be a lot of fun. And I was like, really? Is this totally necessary? Like, do we really need to do this? I was like, why? Like, in case there's an emergency? And he was like, no, this is the emergency. Like, I had no idea, right? I'm 10 minutes from dead. I have no idea I'm dying. Zero, right? Thank God, because I would have been terrified, and I would have been thinking about my family, and I would, I mean, please, like,
Yeah.
Right? And so he said, this is the emergency. I was like, well, if you say so, go ahead, have at it, right? So he's working on prepping my neck, and it didn't hurt at all, right? So if you ever have to have this done, don't worry. But while I'm lying there, and he's sort of on my neck, it took long. It felt like it took longer than it probably actually did. But while I'm there, all of a sudden, and I have to stop and say, I'm an atheist. I'm a life atheist. I'm a rationalist. I'm not spiritual. I'm not a mystic. I'm not woo-woo. I'm nothing, right? And my dad was an atheist and a physicist. I have to say this because of what's coming. And I'm still an atheist, by the way. But so all of a sudden, I sensed below me and to my left this black pit open up, this black abyss, like this infinite black void. And I was getting pulled into it. And it's not like darkness had taken over the world. The world was here. I could see the doctors. I was talking to them, right? Here I am. But the darkness was contained in this hole that was underneath me, and I was getting pulled into it, right? I was dying, but I had this instincts of a wounded animal. Like, if I go into the pit, the infinitely dark pit, I'm not out, right? Like, I just sensed, like, don't go in there because you're coming back, right? And I started to panic because I felt myself getting drawn in, right? And then my dead father, appeared above me and to my left. Now, there's a whole body of inquiry of NDEs, near-death experiences, and I didn't know anything about this stuff, right? I didn't know anything about it. It didn't interest me. I'm not culturally prepped for anything like that. I'm not Christian. See angels. Like, I'm a zero in that regard, right? So there's my dead father above me, right? He'd been dead 8 years. But I was not happy to see him, right? I was shocked. I mean, literally, I was, Dad, what are you doing here? Like, and there he was, and he communicated to me. And so what I saw, see isn't quite the right verb, but I don't know if there doesn't exist the right verb. I sensed/saw him, and it was essence, his energy, his presence. It's not like I see you, right? It's like, oh, there he is, right? It wasn't with that clarity. In some ways, it was with a deeper clarity because it was his essence, right? And there he was. His presence was right there. And above me and to my left, it was like quite specific. And he communicated to me, again, not with words, but with some manner that I understood, that I can't quite explain what it was. But basically, the idea was, you don't have to fight it. You can come with me. I'll take care of you. It's okay. It's okay. Don't be scared, right? I'll take you. I was horrified. I was appalled. I was offended. I was like, dead. Why would I want to go with you? You're dead. You're the opposite of what I am. Why would I possibly want to go with you and be dead with you? Because I'm alive with my family, right? I'm not going anywhere with you. Like, get out of here. And I said to the doctor, you have to hurry. I'm going right now. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I was sort of outbound. And once that happened, there's no inbound. And I sensed that. I said, you got to hurry. You're losing right now.
So what'd they do?
Well, they transfused me. They stabilized me 3 units of blood. Eventually, I needed 10 units, which is a full complement. And so let me just pause for a moment and say, please donate blood. Like, everybody who's listening, I'm alive. My daughter have a father because 10 people who I'll never know donated their blood. And when you donate blood, you are literally allowing another person to live. And one day, you might live because someone else donated blood. And doctors can't manufacture that shit. Like, if you donate blood, it takes an hour. It doesn't hurt, and your body will replace it in a couple of weeks. It's the ultimate free lunch. And
I think it's quicker than a couple of weeks. It's pretty quick.
It's pretty, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to get 100%, I think it's a little long, but whatever. It doesn't matter, right? It's like we're talking about human life here. And
Right.
if you want to be part of something greater than yourself, it's blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All these things that we all kind of want. Like, how do I participate? So, like, nobody needs me. I'm not part of anything. I feel lonely. Give blood, man. Then you'll be part of something amazing, right? And you might. So I give blood regularly. So at any rate, there's my pitch. But so they stuffed some blood in me, jugular. I stabilized, and they brought me to the the cath lab, the interventional radiology. And what interventional radiology is, it's a freaking miracle, right? Like 20 years ago, I'd have been dead.